and I'm selling every day. It's not billions of dollars, but it pays the bills, and it pays enough to say, okay, I'm going to keep doing this thing. And every album I come out with, it gets a little bit more cumulative to where I get more followers, more people buying the stuff, and I've got a great team that's networking with the mom and pop. We're selling all over the world. We sell it 38 countries now without being on Amazon or without being on any other thing. 38 countries.
Yeah, good for you. Good for you. How is to work with Patrick Moraz? I think I read somewhere that the tour that you guys did it was very difficult. You mentioned that it was a lot of work, and I think you have a video as well of that, right? Is that correct?
I have a video of it that I'm going to, say I have to, it's got to be cleaned up, remember, because this is from
1993, 92?
93 or something. But it was the Story of I tour. He never toured with the Story of I. He never did live performance. We're the only people that ever did the tour. And it was the only video that exists on it. And it's really good. The music is note for note, not a single mistake on the note. So I want to have it remastered and regenerated to perfect the video. But Patrick's been a dear friend of mine since about 1992. I met him at the Anaheim NAMM when I was playing for Kurzweil. I was playing the NAMM show for Kurzweil, and actually Chick came in when I was playing at Kurzweil and jumped up on my keyboard and started playing a drum solo, it was the first time, just the one thing is just all drums. He figured out the mapping, and he did a fantastic drum solo, and I just died laughing. I got a picture of that,
Good for you.
That's where I met Patrick, and Patrick had just he was just out of the Moody Blues, and we started talking. And then next thing you know, he came down to see me in Florida and stayed at one of my houses. And I had a grand piano in the house, and we decided to do a solo piano record, which turned into Story of I. Or now it's not the Story of I, Windows of Time.
Yeah, wow. Good for you. In 92, you joined the Crickets, and they were for the opening of the musical body with Paul McCartney, another big name as well. Man, you need to think about you writing a book?
My brother and I are thinking about doing a podcast because, he just walked in here a minute ago and started laughing when I was telling the Billy Cobham story because, but I think we're going to do a podcast because we do have so much musical history that nobody knows that would be, I should write a book, truly. But like the Crickets, I just went to the eulogy. I did a eulogy last week in Nashville for Jerry Allison, the drummer of the Crickets, who was a dear friend of mine. I would say that, my dad wasn't really into me doing music. He wanted me to follow his footsteps at the steel mill. But years later, when my sister told him I was making more money than him, then he became a fan.
He was happy.
So, but I would say if I had another mentor, it would have been Jerry Allison, the drummer for the Crickets, the guy who, played on Peggy Sue and, That'll Be the Day. And he wrote most of the songs for Buddy Holly. People don't know that. But the manager didn't think it looked good for the drummer to be writing the songs. So they made Buddy write the songs. But Jerry got the money. Right? So anyway, I went to do the eulogy for the Crickets. I produced some things for the Crickets. And when the Crickets played the Buddy, opening of Buddy, I got invited to come and have dinner with McCartney and play that that concert, and it was pretty wild. I keep telling everybody there's some things I can't say about that. It'll be in a book, but there's a couple things I can't say about a conversation that was amazing. But he came in to the Lone Star Roadhouse. At the time, they had the the Concorde. Flew from London to New York, JFK. Then he took a helicopter from JFK to the Pan Am building, which doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
And then they take the elevator down and walk across the street to the Roadhouse. So on the show is Screaming Blue Jays, not Ronnie Millsap, Bruce Springsteen's band, a couple other people are on the show all playing, and I'm playing with the Crickets. Joby Malden, Gordon Payne, and J.I. Allison. And at the time, they get to hear the walkie-talkies. He's coming down the stairs. Yeah, he's walking across the street. And at the Roadhouse, there was mirrors on the wall, and I'm sitting up against one of the mirrors so I could see, and this hand comes on my shoulder. And at the time, 1992, I think, I had a ponytail. Yeah. And he pulled my ponytail and said, "Get a haircut."
Wow.
Well, we had dinner that night, and it was great. And that night I met May Pang, the girl that went out with John Lennon. So I've been friends with May ever since. And that night, McCartney was with his wife, Linda, who was alive at the time. Yeah. And the whole table, at the memorial, I saw Gordon Payne and Sonny, the original guitar player. And I was telling him about the experience when we went to play, the Roadhouse with McCartney. And I was telling Gordon, I said, "Yeah, I'm at the table, just looking down the table. There's Paul McCartney." I'm thinking to myself, that's Paul McCartney. I mean, he's always got to look good because everybody knows, and because people are always staring at him. And Gordon hits me with his elbow and goes, "Mike, quit staring." And we just had a big laugh about that. Because, it was Paul McCartney.
Of course.
Really?
Unbelievable.
Paul McCartney.
Yeah. Wow. Man, you mentioned so many famous people, man. You are a lucky guy, man. Feel free to elaborate on the Bruce Hornsby at the Super Bowl in '92.
Well, there's an agent, and his name is Peter Smith, that used to use me to back up all his shows. And Bruce Hornsby was going to play at the Super Bowl, so they needed a band. So Peter called me up and said, "Hey, Mike, you want to play with Bruce Hornsby?" I said, "Sure, man." So he said, we only got the evening before the Super Bowl to rehearse. Here's the songs. So at one time I had two houses next to each other. One was my house, one was my studio at the time. And so I had piano in there, and we would rehearse in the house, and it was all set up. Bruce walked in the door, jumped on the piano. We were in the middle of playing one of the songs, and he just jumped on the piano and started playing, and we finished that song off. We rehearsed a couple others, and he said, "Okay, I'll see you tomorrow," and he left. So we played the Super Bowl. We did, of course, The Way It Is and Valley Road and some other songs. And I stayed in touch with him every time he would come in the area. My brother and I would go to see one of his shows. When he played with Bonnie Raitt, we went backstage. When he played one of his own shows in Tampa, we'd go. And anyway, we stayed in touch. And then when he's on John Chapter 2. So he sent me a bunch of songs to work on. I worked on like 3 of his songs, and one of them is going to be on Chapter 2. But I saw Bruce here a couple months ago doing a solo piano, and he's one of a kind. He's really got a take on it. He's really gotten into a different kind of music, really, and he's really into it. But the original Bruce Hornsby thing, I think the style of it stays in people's heads. So I offered him to play on Robbie Steinhardt's record. I said, "Because that's your style." He goes, "No, that's not my style anymore."
Used to be.
So, you got to respect that. He's moving forward. He's a very prolific, writing all the time, and he's a great piano player. So it was a joy to hear him.
In 98 to 2001, you were the musical director of the Hard Rock Cafe in Orlando. Was it beneficial for you to do that, or what was the motivation for you to become there?
I was music director at Little Darling's Rock and Roll Palace here in Orlando, and then Wolfman Jack's. Yeah. So that people were aware of me doing that type of job, being a music director.
Gotcha.
So basically what it is, like running the band, helping pick the people to perform. And insights into because the place wasn't even built yet when I was hired.
Oh,
so I was there. We were originally going to have a recording studio in the basement, which never happened. We put a video studio in there, and we utilized that. the motivation there was just to have a great venue to play. And then I invited all my friends to play. I had, the Crickets, Jerry Lee Lewis, the Iron Butterfly, who I'm just releasing their album now. Not Iron Butterfly, Blues Image. The brand new album will be out in about another month with Mike Panera, the original member singer. And so I would bring in Les Dudek and Pat Travers and Rick Derringer and Melanie and all kinds of people I knew. It became cost effective because the public didn't know that they all lived within Florida. So, it's very cost effective to get them here and to perform, and then to keep them in the network. Like some of these people, like Rick Derringer is like one of my favorite guys and one of the greatest guitar players alive. Very underrated guitar player. But you'll find that when you get on the subject of Rick Derringer, who was I talking? Oh, Rick Wakeman was just talking about Rick Derringer on an interview this morning. And, Eddie Van Halen, Leslie West, Rick Derringer, all their favorite guitar player. Rick, I played a concert with Rick last year. We rehearsed the morning of the show. We did his stuff, Rock and Roll Hoochie Coo and Still Alive and Well, Frankenstein, Real American, Guns and Money. We did all his stuff, rehearsed. I got a video of it. It's just amazing. The guy's just a monster on the guitar. He has such control of the guitar. And I've become very good friends with him, and he doesn't live too far from me. We see each other a couple times a year. I go over there and have dinner with them. Wonderful people.
Good. Many musicians they have been moving down to Florida in the last, 10 years, maybe, in the area where you live, Orlando. And
yeah, there's a lot of reasons for that.
Yeah.
Wolfman was the one who gave me the idea to move to Florida. We were in Chicago.
Yeah.
We played down in Orlando for some show. And then Wolfman looked at me one day and said, Mike, you could save $1,000 a month just by living in Florida. I said, why is that? He says, because the airfares, everybody's got to go to Disney because the airfares are cheaper to go to Orlando than a lot of places. Really? Yeah. So I talked to at the time I had a travel agent. She said, yeah, you could, you're coming to Chicago. First off, I lived in Indiana, and O'Hare Airport is like 2 hours from where I lived. Through the worst traffic of Chicago. You got to go through Chicago or around Chicago to get to the airport. So it was grueling. And too, like in the wintertime, it was a pain.
Yeah.
So we played this concert down in Orlando, and I checked it out. And then I got an offer to join a theater. The Little Darlings Rock and Roll Palace that was owned by Fabian, the singer Fabian, and one of the guys in the Diamonds, and a guy who ran an attraction called Church Street. So they said, hey, bring you down here. And a guy who had like a condo on a lake said, if you move down here, I'll give you the place for free until you can find a house. So I was like, the stars are coming together,
That's right. Yeah.
Cheaper to live there. I don't have to pay rent for 6 months. So I'm saving this. So I moved down to Florida and then started the theater. And, but, in Florida, you don't have state tax. There's no state tax. So you're saving about 7-8% on your income. And, Solar Studios, I whole another part of my life is technology. So, Solar Studios is because it's all solar here. I don't pay any money for electricity. Mm. And, in Indiana where I lived, I'd have to pay a fortune every month just to keep warm during the winter, And in the summer, I'd have to pay a fortune to stay cool in the summer.
That's right.
Here it's, Florida's a great place to live. I'm in the middle of the state. I got both oceans. I got 5 major cities I can play in, and a lot of theaters here. And people, there's disposable income here. People come to Orlando looking to spend money on a show or a concert or something. So to me, it's all the places I've lived. I couldn't wait to get back to Orlando. I love it here.
Yeah. Become more, from a real estate point of view, have become a lot more expensive in the last 5 years, I think. The prices have been with inflation and everything else been going up. But in Florida, I think, in Florida in particular, Orlando area, there's used to be a lot cheaper. Now the prices are going up a lot.
I think it's going up every place, but once you get entrenched in some place and your house is paid off and everything's then whatever it's going to be, whatever it's going to be. But I mean, I just feel kind of lucky that I did everything when I did.
I got you. What? So eventually you end up moving and you live like 15 years in China, Japan, and why? You were single at the time, right? So what was the motivation of you moving there?
Well, the motivation was Don Ariolo, who was doing Felix the Cat. He had me go over to Japan to work on a musical with Hello Kitty.
Yep.
So I went over there, and it was just so interesting to me. And I had been to Japan like 6 times before, playing with different bands.
Got it.
And at one time, the band with my brother, my trio, we went over to Japan and we stayed 6 and 7 weeks at a time at the American Club in Mayahama. So we met people, we were all single. So, I mean, life was a little bit different, but what happened was, when I got the job with Hello Kitty, it was serious, and it was a serious position to be, writing music for that organization. And, so I was there doing stuff. I was probably in Japan 2 years doing that. And then, I ventured off into China. When I got to China, it was like, wow, this is the Wild West. So I had many different jobs in China. I have a musical job in China. My musical job was there because the cartoons were being made there. And then I got into technology there. Basically, my father had met some people at his golf club that needed a consultant in China. And I was just learning the language because I was committed. I was going to stay there for a couple of reasons. At the time, I had a relationship in China. And so I was bound and determined I was going to stay there. I'd been divorced 15 years. And I met somebody whose father was way up in the position of the government. So things were very easy access for me. And next thing I know, I saw a line of people going down the street. And what is this? In Shanghai. And I went down and I looked, what? It's a little tiny carnival. So anyway, I live in Orlando, where all the carnival people come to rest for the winter. They do with their winter quarters, bring all their equipment, parked all over the outskirts of Orlando to weather the winter. And I started calling all of them to see if they wanted to go to China to do a carnival. Is that crazy? And most people hung up on me, but one guy didn't. And so I brought him to China. He saw everything. And then a year later, we brought $40 million worth of equipment to China to do a carnival. And it was very successful.
Wow.
And then I probably did 7 carnivals in China between 2004 and 2022. The equipment just left Taiwan. It's on its way for a 5-year tour of Vietnam. So I've been to Vietnam 4 times this year, getting that all set up.
Wow. Did you miss the United States when you were living there? I mean,
I want to say, did I miss the United States? I miss my kids, but too, they're growing up, and when I'd come back and I'd be in China for 3 months and I'd come back for a month, see my parents, see my kids. Yeah. They'd see me the first day or two, and then I wouldn't see them until I left. They got their own lives,
That's right.
It's hi, Dad. Great. Oh, we really missed you. Yeah. Can't stay long. Got to go, So after a while, I realized I didn't really have to come back. I came back for my parents. That was about it. But then too, once I bought my parents a computer and put it up there so we could Skype, my dad, he could press a button for email and he could press a button for Skype.
Yeah.
We used to watch TV. He used to put TV shows I couldn't get. We used to schedule. He'd get the TV and turn it up to the camera, and we'd sit there and watch TV shows together.
Yeah. And then you good for you. You met your wife, you got married, and then you decided, well, it's time for me to come back here.
Yeah, I think the magic was, my wife was a piano player, and I played a big concert in the city I was living in called Xiamen, which is right across the Straits of Taiwan. Beautiful city. And I played there with a famous Chinese band. And her company was putting on the show. So after the show, I went to a party and everything, and I met her. And she's the only girl who didn't want to be with me. So I figured that's the one I want.
That's a good sign.
And, and so it took a while to, because she didn't speak any English at the time. My Chinese was average. But eventually we got together, and I realized, I'm flying down to her city on the weekends, and she's working 6 days a week, 12 hours a day. So I only get to see her half day Saturday and Sunday. That's it. So I, basically was like, okay, I come down here, I get to see you Saturday night, I get to see you Sunday, and then that's it, So how much money do you make? And then she told me how much money she made. And I said, look, I'm going to move to this city because I had business in that city. I was thinking about moving there for a while. And I'm going to come and live in this city. I'm going to get an apartment. You're going to quit your job, because she was making, for all that time, 6 days a week, 12 hours a day, she was making $200.
My God. Man.
So I said,
Terrible.
I'm going to pay you not to work. So I got a beautiful house right on the ocean, 23rd story. All you could see was ocean. I rented a piano, which I needed to practice myself. And then she started having students. And she was making her money with her own students, and plus she didn't have to pay for her house or anything like that. She was living with me. Well, part of the delay of coming to the United States was she didn't think she could do anything in the United States. So when we finally decided that I need to go back to the United States to make money because some of the stuff I was doing in China had ended, we came back, and I did that, kind of thing where you get the picture and you put the phone number on it so you could cut it up and tear off the phone number.
Yeah.
Right. So I put a picture of her teaching her kids and her awards and the TV shows and stuff she was on, all in Chinese. I stuck it up at all the nail shops and Chinese restaurants and Chinese grocery stores. Within 2 weeks, we had 20 students. So you saw, how much should I charge, Michael? I mean, she used to charge 35 cents. No, I would see 35 renminbi. That's $3. She used to charge $3 a lesson in China. So I said, well, you're going to charge $50 a lesson here.
That's right.
No. Her father's a police chief and he makes $750 a month. Her mom's a nurse and she makes $500 a month. Her brother's a policeman or firefighter. He makes $275 a month. Right? Now she's got 38 students at $50 an hour.
Not bad.
I think she told her parents how much money was she making, and they all freaked out. No, you're lying or something.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
that was the best thing ever happened to me, that relationship, because before, any relationship I ever had was like, are you done with your work? Are you done practicing? Are you going to work on that music all night? Now it's for me. I built her own studio here, and she's got students 5 days a week. And at late at night, I was going, are you coming to bed? Are we going to watch a movie or what? So I'm, it's the opposite. So I love it.
Yeah, good for you. Good, sometimes things work out toward the end. So I'm very happy for you that you met the love of your life and you're doing well, man. In 2014, you opened Solar Studios and started Solar Music labels. Feel free to elaborate how difficult it was to put it together, and man, you so many names that have gone to that studio. And
well, I had a studio here in Orlando called Studio Z.
Yeah.
First, I had it in my house when I first moved to Florida.
Yeah.
Then I moved it over downtown, but it was too costly. And then what would happen is I'd have to do all this music I didn't want to do to have a recording studio, to pay the overhead in the studio.
Yeah.
I have to pay all this. I have to do some bands I would never want to produce. It's like, not my cup of thing. Not very good musicians. Not very good music. So when I became music director of Hard Rock Live, I had a small building on my property, and then I built it into it. When I started the Felix the Cat cartoons, I had bought this house, and the studio was in the bedroom, which is now my wife's piano studio. We did all the cartoons in one room. All, my keyboard equipment and a sound booth and everything all in one room. And then I renovated this building I'm in now in about 2002, I think. And it got better and better and better. The hurricanes knocked down my roof at one point in time, and the whole roof caved in. And after it was cleaned up, we rebuilt. But when I came back in 2014, my engineer, Matt Brown, had totally refurbished and reconditioned the studio, and it was ready to rock. And then, we started working. I think our first projects were small ones of cartoon stuff. But, by 2015, 16, I was working on John's record and other records. I just needed a place to work, I really only need a computer for 60% of it to organize, because I organize everything on the computer first, make sure everything's in time and in tune.
Yeah.
Then I can make suggestions, and I can edit and cut and paste and send somebody a little tiny section and say, they don't have any idea of what else is going on. Here, just play to this, send me your track. And I'd get it on the internet, fly it in, let's say it's a lot of time, a lot of cost, a lot of heartache. And like I said, I do most of it. Now I get a brand new computer that'll do twice the work. It's great with all the sounds. And I get a lot of stuff free from companies that sponsor me. I've always been a Kurzweil guy, so I've been sponsored by them. And, now I got IK and Spectrasonics. And so I get all the stuff and I put it in the computer. I've got these palettes. I get lost in just going through, what sound is this? Oh my God, I got to use that someplace. I've never heard that sound before. Okay, make a note of that. There's a sound to use, So,
are you kind of, see, you're working in many projects at the same time. Are you kind of controlling freak? Are you very organized? You wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning and say, man.
Oh, I would like to think that I'm organized. I sometimes, if I work on something for a long time and another thing comes up, I've got to backtrack, and I don't like to backtrack. I'm seeing like 10 different versions of one song I was working on with John, and each one of them has their, credibility. So now it's like, listen to it and say, okay, I like that part of that, and I like this part of that, and then start to put it together. It's not like, I don't want to say it's not organic. It is organic, but for me, organic is everything being there and making. Do you know when you take your glasses off in the middle of the night, you put them on the table?
Yeah.
Right. You go to bed. 8 hours later, you get up and you just walk over to the table and pick up the glasses. You didn't put the glasses on the table every single night there. You have a retention of something. Your brain is working somehow. That's how I think of this music. I just thought of a thing before I got in line with you about a change to the violinist Jocelyn Sue. I'm doing her album, which will be out probably May, I think. And it's sort of like a tribute to all the great violinists in jazz, fusion, and rock and roll. And I just took a song from. Do you remember the band called "It's a Beautiful Day"?
I know the name. I don't recall.
They had one album. Well, they had a couple albums, but they were only famous for one song called "White Bird." White bird in a golden cage on a winter's day in the rain. And it was a beautiful violin solo. And I kept hearing one of the songs that I'm doing, and I kept hearing White Bird at the same time. So now I found a way to permeate White Bird over that song. So it's like the last tribute to the last violinist that I needed to do. John-Luc Ponty, Robbie Steinhardt, Jerry Goodman, all the great rock violinists. She's doing a song paying tribute to them, So Plus, she's doing her own thing.
Good for you, man. Let's talk a little bit about the John Anderson A Thousand Hands. The project, obviously went dormant for many years, but I listened to the album again, and I went to when John Anderson was touring. I saw him at the Virchmer a couple years ago. What unbelievable show! What unbelievable album that is! That's a masterpiece, man.
Yeah, I mean, John loves the album.
Yeah,
I think that people say that, the best John Anderson album is Elias on Hill, which was one of my favorites. John's in my DNA. Believe it or not, Patrick Moraz, The Story of I, Elias Son Hillo, Parkus, Thick as a Brick, and The Firebird. Okay? If I had 5 albums, or maybe Joni Mitchell Travelogue, okay? If I had to 6, But, with the whole idea of that long form, I love the long form. It's sitting down with a glass of wine or a gummy or something and listening to a full piece of music, not just a song. There's a place that you live for a while. And that's what I've sort of learned from John's thing. And so chapter 2 is a little bit more of a continuum than separate songs. There's a thread. There's a thread through the whole thing. And, some of it is coming up with a concept. So you come up with a concept for chapter 2. How do you, well, I mean, I understand what I did with chapter 1. And so I make it a continuation. There's an overture, a small overture. And then there's repeating of some things, slightly hinted. There's some quotes from chapter 1 on chapter 2. Maybe the average person won't hear it, but the musician will hear it. That kind of thing. Yeah. So they'll be looking like, "Where's Waldo?" No.
I know what you mean. When do you? Easy for me to say, but that's. When that you think will be finished and available in a year from now, or a couple of years from now?
No, I'm thinking about that. It's going to be. I'm hoping to release it April before John. That's the point. Before John goes on tour again.
Yeah.
I'd like to release it April 16th, I think.
Okay, I'm seeing him again, John Anderson, in May 10, May 15. He's going to be playing here in Virginia in the Capitol. It's a new place called, I think, Capital One or something.
Yeah.
And I bought ticket with my wife and my son as well. Man, you have feel free to elaborate on the album Not in Kansas Anymore. That's another masterpiece, man. That's another.
Well, like I said, it started with the John sessions, Robbie coming in to play on Activate. And then I had Robbie play on Climb to Grace, which was a song originally. John had sent me a vocal that I was building around that song, but it was what he had sent me was too similar to something else that had already been done, so we didn't do it. It's like a couple of things that get started and just there's so many better things, so that got pushed way to the back, And John would send me a couple songs a week. And then I'd be working on it. I'm working on one right now that's not even on chapter 2. That's a monster song that I heard it and I said, "Oh my God, I got to work on this." So I have 2 songs that are lengthy that are not on chapter 2 that are pretty much finished. But that'll be maybe chapter 3, But chapter 2 I hope it's going to be out by April. I intend to finish it by Christmas. I'm in the studio the next 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I got my shopping list, and I'm, starting Monday, I'm gonna in the studio 5 days a week working on it.
Do you? That's great. Do you? Still people ping you, reach out to you, and then, hey, can you work in this with me? Can you work with that? How you manage what what you should be working. Well, you have certain tasks and certain goals in life that you want to accomplish, but at the same time, how you say no to people pinging you or pinging you. Can you look at that? How you make time for, you have 10 things on the table, how you pick the top 3 that you want to work now and then do the other next week or whatever, or in a month.
Yeah, well, I mean, if somebody sends me a track and then, I make a schedule, I'm one of these people, before I go to bed, I've got the pad there and I'm writing down what I'm doing tomorrow.
Yeah.
One of my folders that I do is John. And then I've got the list of all the songs, and then I've got what needs to be done. And the more I listen to in the car, okay, what I need to change in a mix, what vocal of his I need to bring up front, what note is not making me happy right now. There's a hole there that needs to be filled. All right. So I do have people pinging me, wanting me to be on the record. And I have some people that I've reached out to that I'm hoping they come to the party before I get to the end of the process. I just met a new friend this last week and figured out what it would be in their wheelhouse to play. Sometimes it's like, okay, I get all these songs. I don't have anything that would make them sound like them. You got to give them something that says, oh, I know where to be in that. Yeah, I know exactly where to be. And so I've got one song I'm going to send out to somebody on Monday, and I hope that they, can get it done in a certain time. But then again, I got more than enough songs for chapter 2. What I've done is I put together my proposed template to John, and then we talk about it. He's made comments about what to do, this and that, and then we'll be happy. But then again, he's the artist. I can't get him to do or accept something that he doesn't want to do. If he doesn't feel like that is him or whatever, I try to come up with ideas, like as a collaborator, as a friend. Hey, how about this? Oh, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But he is John Anderson. The style and everything is him. So, it's got to be like what he does. I tell everybody, he's in my musical DNA. I sort of, when I'm in that box, I sort of think about all the history of stuff I know from him, and I've worked on enough music in the past. Has it really been 8 years? Forget the meeting, but working on his music for like 8 years now.
Correct. Yeah.
You sort of have, like those glasses that you left on the table. There's a song way back there with a vocal part or an instrumental part that you think needs to be in this project. So that's how my brain works. You get to see that,
Yeah, gotcha.
He chopped out a part of chapter 1, which is just so beautiful. It's got to find a home someplace. To me, it's just so.
No, that's a beautiful. No, I completely agree. It's a beautiful album. Feel free to elaborate. Then Abigail 1, if I'm pronouncing the last name correctly, Chick Corea children's songs that I heard that it's another important part of your life as well. So.
Well, a chick invited me and my wife to come see a solo piano concert in Jacksonville. And he had done his part for chapter 1 and chapter 2. He told me how, man, that song is deep. The one that Come Up, 1,000 Hands, Come Up. So because that had Coryell and Zap Mama and John Luke Ponty and, Cast of Thousands on it. And the ending was sort of like a freelance orchestration that, that we did. And I really love that. And anyway, I told him that I had met this young girl. My wife teaches all these Chinese kids, and a guy that she refers to her students to buy pianos from him. He called me up and said, hey, I got this little girl that wants to record a Christmas album at your studio. I said, come on, Bob, I got to tune up the Bosendorfer and, it's going to cost X amount of dollars. It's a professional studio. It's not like a kid. No, don't worry about it. You got to hear her. So I said, okay, I will. She came in. She played 20 Christmas songs in 1 hour. Not jingle bells, but unbelievable arrangements, like a 50-year-old guy who really knew what he was doing with that emotion, not like kids would just play fast. She played like, oh my God. We were just in amazement. So anyway, we did the Christmas record. And then I kept thinking, and the funny thing is, her mom is from Shaman, where I lived. So we had that in common. Good. And her mother's a professor who worked in University of Buffalo, where I'm born. So we have a synergy. And they're really, really nice people. So they invited us to come over to Chinese New Year. So we went over to Chinese New Year, and at their house, they had a piano and a keyboard. So Abigail would play the piano for me. And then she'd say, how can I say this in a polite way? She's a little bit, they say she's not on the spectrum, but she's a very special kid. You know, she'd look up the ceiling and play unbelievable. She's got the retention she has is unbelievable. So I'm thinking, what can I do with this little girl? Oh, there's so many Asian pianists doing classical music. You know, it's almost boring. So Chick had given me the children's songs book to give to my wife. So I got it. The glasses are over there, right? I got the Chick Corea's children book. I gave it to Abigail. The next week I went back there and she had memorized 10 of the songs.
Wow.
Now, I got to tell you, you know, I can't speak for Chick Corea, but I remember in a conversation and something I saw on the internet that when he was playing the children's songs, he said, well, you know, I really don't play them exactly like it's an improvisation. You know, it's very difficult for me to remember what I did. Well, Abigail played everything note for note of the recording. Now, I've seen some older guys have done like number 1 or number 3, the famous ones. Nobody's attempted like number 18, the impossible one. But she came into the studio and she played all of them from memory. No music.
Unbelievable, man. Yeah.
And I had piano players over here for the live performance. And they're all just like looking at each other. It's like, oh my God. She's 10 years old. 10.
Yeah, some people are gifted. There's no way around it. Yeah, maybe the spectrum or hyperactivity or...
No, I'm talking about her. The spectrum is a medical term as far as maybe there's some, I don't want to say the wrong thing, but some slight autism.
We are all in my family. I know exactly what you're saying. So,
yeah. So her brain is in a certain place where she can do that kind of thing, you know.
In my family, many, including myself, were labeled kind of hyperactive, weird kid who couldn't stand still. I'm in the spectrum myself. I have a little bit of autism, a little bit Asperger, and I manage well. Was difficult at the beginning, the first 18 years, because I couldn't concentrate. Remember that kind of spectrum became a term in DSM-4, and doctor didn't know what to do with you. You were labeled, you know, hyper, weird kid who couldn't stand still. You would not accomplish anything in your life. And, you know, I was kind of in that area, and medication didn't exist. And my parents were pissed off at me. I wasn't taking life seriously. Now, 38 years later, I have 7 college degrees. I'm a teaching assistant at Harvard, and I work for a very good company, or I own another company. I do a lot of stuff, and I'm very happy. I was born that way, and I manage. Like with you, talking to you right now, I'm listening to you. I'm looking at my note, and ideas are rushing to my head about stuff that I would like to do that I haven't done, that I would like to do.
Yeah.
It's like a gift. Some people need to know how to, you know, it's like an onion. You need to put it together and then unravel that gift. And it's complicated, but that's the best thing that happened to me. I'm very lucky that I was born that way, you know. Nowadays, people take amazing in the morning, and like my son, and there was diagnosed, they went to DSM-4, and you know, you're not a weird kid anymore, and you have special attention at school. But That's the best thing that happened to me. So, you know.
Well, I mean, some of it for me is to stay active, because I've seen so many people that sort of retired. You know, like I said, I turned 70. My dad had both Alzheimer's and dementia.
Yep.
When he passed away at 82. And but he had signs of it long before that. And so my active brain stimulation by working on musical projects, the music stimulates my brain. I'm learning Vietnamese right now.
Good for you.
I still have to deal with the Chinese because one just walked in the door and she left. You know, so I want to give my brain as much food as possible.
Absolutely, yeah.
So that I can be like so many of my friends. I'm working with so many octogenarians right now. I'm working with Lou Christie, who just turned 80. I'm learning I just did an album with Tommy Rowe that will be released in January. A dear friend of mine, had big hits in the 70s. He just turned 80. John's 78.
Yeah. Wow.
You know, Jerry Ellison just passed. He was 83. So I've got a lot of respect for these people who still stick with it. You know,
Yeah.
they didn't turn 65 and retire to go play golf, because that's all that's doing is saying, pick out your gravesite right now and dig the hole, because you'll be there soon. You know,
Absolutely.
I got to keep going.
Yeah, yeah. I have only 2 questions left, Michael. Looking back at your life, is anything that you have changed or would have done differently, you know, looking back, and
Yeah,
you're happy, you know, or
for sure. I would have moved to China when I was 20.
Yeah.
I would have learned more languages.
Yeah.
I would have took serious conducting lessons. And I would have devoted more time towards the facility of reading and writing music for the whole spectrum of instruments when I was younger. You know, I'd say, you know, that. I learned more languages, went and lived in a foreign place like China, where business is so down and dirty that you would become a realist and come back and be able to deal with, you know, things, because they know how to do business. They know all the strategies because their culture is so old. You know, Western cultures are not as vicious as them, because we're not as in need as they are. You know, in China, you never own your own home. You buy a piece of land with a house on it, and the house will fall apart, but you only get 70 years when you buy a house. Then it goes back to the government. So realistically, Chinese people have to rent their entire life. And a house is so expensive that what do you mean, you buy it? No, you can never buy it. Nobody's got that much money to buy a house. So they're always in the need of money. So their temperament of what they need out of life is so much different than ours. Luckily, I've saved my wife from it, but I learned about how to enjoy your life a little bit better. And the material things, I've accumulated a lot of junk, but I've accumulated a lot of junk that makes equity, then get rid of it. Because they're, you know, like I got a beautiful piano here. You know, it belonged to a dear friend of mine. That's why I bought it. But, you know, I mean, it's a lot more than I can use in here. And there'll be a time when I just say, okay, I want to get it off to some concert hall or some church or university where it'll do more good than me, you know, because it doesn't get played enough. The instrument that it is, even if I play it every day, it deserves more of a home. But it's in a studio, and it's, you know, people are playing on it. But I just think that everything, in reality, everything that you do, the equity that you put into it, you know, I don't like fancy cars. I don't like everything. Everything is for my freedom to be able to deal in music. That's it. It's all about having. What are you doing today, Michael? I'm working on some music. I don't know what yet. After lunch, I'll tell you.
Any artists that you wish that you have the opportunity to produce an album or work with him or whatever?
Well, I think
Don't
there's
work so many people, so it's
well, the
hard.
thing is that I wish that I could have. I wish I could do something real besides just play piano behind McCartney singing old songs. I really wish that I could have done something with McCartney. Now I did. I don't know if you ever saw the John Lennon thing that I did.
No, I have not. I need to
Oh,
check that.
I will send it to you.
Yeah,
It got
that would be great. Yeah.
critical acclaim from everybody, including George Martin's son, of what it was. It was I did the isolated tracks of A Day in a Life, and I put every Beatles song under Lennon's vocal.
Yeah.
And then I had Ella Ortega doing the video, the Beatles cartoons behind it. You know what he does. I'll send it to you. It's an amazing piece.
Yeah, we'll love to hear
But
it.
I would like to seriously do something with McCartney, and the other person I'd like to seriously do something with is Joni Mitchell. Other than that, I mean, there's a lot of great artists out there, but nothing that. Oh, and Ian Anderson. I've reached out to him, and I'd like to orchestrate something for him. So he's a wonderful guy. He's played on 2 of my albums for free, for John and for Robbie, and he's one of the most intelligent people that I've ever had a chance to talk to. I mean, in fact, we had an interview with him for a friend of mine who does PBS. We went along for the interview, and I mean, very, very smart guy. He suffers no fools, including me. So,
yeah. And the last question, feel free to elaborate your website where people can buy music. What music do you have?
solarmusic.com.
Yeah.
Solarmusic.com. And if you go to Michael Franklin Solar Music on Facebook, you can see I normally put up my activities, what I'm doing, and
I got you.
I'm very active.
I got you. Solar music, that remind me of I don't know if a German band called Grofschnitt that did a famous track called Solar Music, which is very popular in the world of progressive music in the 70s and 80s. It was very good. It was very nice talking to you, Michael. You're a great guy, man. I know I took almost 2 hours of your time. I will send you the link when we're done, and we need to stay in touch. Feel free to come here when you're in town, or I'm going to be visiting Gabe Treyer soon in Florida, so we'll get together for dinner soon, and then feel free to ping me if there's anything I can do from my end, man. So
great, man. Great to meet you. I thank Gabe for getting the opportunity for us to talk.
Sure.
I just sent Gabe some music to play on, and we'll see if that one makes chapter 2. I'll try to get him on here in the next 3 weeks. So anyway, talk to you soon.
I appreciate it. Thank you again.
Okay. Bye-bye.